This program is brought to you by First National Bank of Botswana. While Botswana has long relied on its diamond industry, a new force is driving diversification, job creation and grassroots innovation, the small, medium and micro enterprise sector. Often described as engines of growth, these businesses are no longer just supporting players. They are central to the national strategy of a high-income, economically diversified future. Recent economic data indicates that SMMEs contribute between 13% and 35% to Botswana's GDP and account for over half of all private sector jobs. Furthermore, Botswana has emerged as one of the global leaders in female entrepreneurship, with the 2021 MasterCard Index of Women Entrepreneurs ranking the country first, with 38.5% of business owners being women. A prime example of this entrepreneurial spirit is Alessandra Sbrana, a Botswana-based interior design and decor consultancy. In a market where urbanization and infrastructure development are driving a 6.2% global growth rate for specialized design services, Alessandra Sbrana is positioned as a key player in Botswana's growing professional services landscape. Behind the success of Alessandra Sbrana is its founder, Sesame Moroka, a professional whose leadership blends technical expertise with strategic commercial awareness. Sesame holds a Bachelor of Science in Interior Architectural Studies from the Design Center in South Africa, with her core competencies that range from spatial planning to contract administration, ensuring that Alessandra Sbrana delivers solutions that are as professionally executed as they are creatively inspired. We have a sit-down chat with Sesame to find out more about her entrepreneurial prowess. Sesame, thank you so much for coming on First Issues and affording us your time. And we're here today to talk to you about entrepreneurship, your journey as an entrepreneur, right? But let us understand, why did you decide to go into entrepreneurship?
You know, this is a very good question. I've never been asked that question before. I kind of just fell into it. I was happy to be an employee. I always call myself cheap help because I'm like the best right-hand man. But I proposed to my ex-business partner. I gave him a proposal of something that we could possibly do together, but as an employee. You know, sort of a value add into his world. And he said, I think you do a better job running with this. Don't you want to partner up? So I kind of just fell into it.
So then with that challenge, your initial thoughts about it, was it anything compared to what it actually was? I think sometimes we go into things with a preconceived idea of what they are, and then we get into it and it's either completely different or something that is completely different in a bad way, or completely different in the most amazing way. So what was that like for you?
I think that is an excellent question. I say that because we have a lot of people who they like to use the word passion. I don't understand that word, not really. Maybe I don't agree with it altogether, but for good reasons they use that word. And passion alone is not enough to sustain or drive a business. So, like I said, I fell into it. I had a great skill. I was very confident in my skill set, but I didn't understand business. I didn't understand I think entrepreneurship comes later on in the journey. I just did not know how to run a business, how to run the your operations, daily operations, and what it really meant, and all the different cells, all the different components of running a business. That was, I think, the biggest rude awakening, but I was graceful enough to receive it and take 2 steps back to go and acquire those skills.
Let us talk about that rude awakening, right? What was so pivotal about it, and what was your greatest takeaway?
I think my greatest takeaway would be that never to employ people who are less intelligent than you. So everybody within my team has to outrank me in all aspects. So if you're in accounts, you better be a way better accountant than me. I should never ever be the ceiling.
Yeah.
If you are a marketing manager, you better be a brilliant marketing manager. If I can do what you're doing, we have a problem. So I think that was my greatest takeaway, was when I was doing my initial hiring, I was the leader.
Yeah.
I was the boss. You know, and I don't know if it's a reflection on my ego, but then I was the ceiling on all aspects.
bitsa motho gore motho a leke mangwala go duela metsi.
Mama, ka re male jana ha o tlhoka le go tsamela kgakala gore go duela metsi. FNB re diretse tiro motho.
Senthe.
Ma kwa go marekisetsong a ile gore ana le tshwala FNB Cash Plus. Se se tlhokanyela ke o mang wa gago mo tirisong le reference number e bon dinomoro tse diriswang go ruragatsa dituelo tsa gago.
FNB what?
FNB Cash Plus.
Madonna makante ke montso samplele ka mananeo a FNB ya Cash Plus.
Hela, ha re le nna ke gone go utlwang ka dona. Ebile ke ne ke sa dumele.
Deposit cash and coins, withdraw from e-wallet, make cardless cash withdrawals, buy prepaid airtime and electricity, pay bills such as water, electricity and many more.
FNB.
Dona. Nyawa ena ke ra sa thare. Mpare motiki. Na ke ra go motho hela mamrapedi. Go tola skontere hela. O bua go semosong wa go duela semosong. Manane wa FNB Cash Plus.
FNB, how can we help you?
I had a great skill. I was very confident in my skill set, but I didn't understand business. I didn't understand what, I think entrepreneurship comes later on in the journey. I just did not know how to run a business, how to run your operations, daily operations, and what it really meant, and all the different cells, all the different components of running a business.
Welcome back to First Issues. Our conversation with founder of Alessandra Sbrana, Sesame Moroka, continues. Let us talk about something that you said there. You said you don't know if it's a reflection of your ego. And we see this happen quite often where leaders or managers believe that their team has to be not less than, but not as intelligent for a plethora of reasons. Fear may be one of them. So how were you able to shift from having, I don't want to say you had that mindset, but from now considering hiring people who are smarter than you, who are better at doing certain things better than you, and you being open to learning from them, not the other way around? I
think, humility. Some things are just very basic. I think good home training can never be replaced by a book. Yeah. You get what I mean? So I just think it was just humility for one, and the books. Yeah. The numbers just did not lie, and I just quickly realized that it was a painful lesson. Nobody really wants to wake up and realize that the ship is sinking because of me. But once it did, I believe in bounce back power. I sat down and I had a very honest conversation with myself, and I wasn't too prideful to ask questions. That's another thing. So at that point, I closed shop. I closed shop for the first time, and then I went and I looked for a job. But I was very intentional about the type of job that I was going to do. It paid way less. I could barely sustain my living costs. I had to dip a lot into my savings for a good 12 months, and I got a job as a sales consultant and a contract manager. And because I knew that was my biggest Achilles, and then over and above that, I volunteered a lot of my hours with the accounts head to just understand the systems, how they do bookings, how she does her recons, just very basic stuff to maybe micro to major stuff. And it was a multinational company, so I acquired those skills through just hours, my everyday hours.
Do you have any regrets though? I think you have quite a story to tell. I think it's very impressive what you're sharing, and also the mindset shift that you have had to adopt. But do you have any regrets as far as what you know now comparable to how you did things then, and if maybe you could have done them differently?
No regrets. Every lesson, it's very, very easy when you're on the other side of the lesson to say, oh, this was so worth it. It is. It was difficult going through some of those lessons. Some of them were very difficult. I stand very privileged in that I have a great support system. That should always be recognized. Whenever somebody says I'm self-made, I'm always like, oh, you have parents, you've got a great support system, you've got relatives. We're not a nomadic country. We have very close community. So I learned those lessons, but I did not learn them on my own. I've had a lot of help throughout.
I'd like for us to talk about your accomplishments. Ones that you're most proud of that maybe somebody who's looking from the outside in would not be privy to seeing just out there in the open. Do you have any?
That's the most difficult question you've asked. Maybe not so much an accomplishment, but just my ability to pivot. So yes, I've worn a couple of hats. I'm quite excited about this new season where I'm serving on different boards. That is something I have worked towards. So once every 5 years, I sit down and I do a vision board. But I always say a vision board is nothing without execution or an execution plan. So annually in January, like everybody else, instead of doing a vision board, I do an execution plan. So it's sort of like a roadmap to how I'm going to achieve some of these things. And each year, I treat it as a season. So the past 3 years has been season of board service. And I'm very intentional about how I move.
So let us now land this plane, right? So the next 5 years, what do they look like for you in this space and in this hat of yours that you're wearing as an entrepreneur?
I think we are in a different season as a people, as a country. I think we've been given an opportunity to be a lot more creative. We've been given an opportunity to grow a different muscle that which we do not have as a people. To self-sustain, to learn survival skills. The government cannot be the main client for any industry. I think it's evident to everybody that it does cripple us. So I think it's an opportunity. And as an individual, when I look at the next 5 years, I know I'm going to reach exponential growth because I'm forced to. Because I'm out of my comfort zone. It's forced me to have a sit down and reevaluate my business model, to sell differently, to give different value add on my offering. So it's exciting.
By prioritizing design integrity, functionality, and client partnership, Sesame Moroka and firms like Alessandra Sbrana Interior Design are proving that small businesses can have a massive impact. With continued support and innovation, these enterprises will endlessly be the heartbeat of Botswana's enduring prosperity. With that, we go for commercials. See you shortly after commercials.
bitsa motho gore motho a leke mangwala go duela metsi.
Mama, ka re maletse yana ha o tlhoka le go tsamela kgakala gore go duela metsi. FNB re diretse tiro motlho. Mma kwa go marekisetsong a e leng gore a na le tshwao la FNB Cash Plus. Se se tlhokanyela ke o mang wa gago mo tirisong le reference number e bong dinomoro tse diriswang go rurihatsa dituelo tsa gago.
FNB what?
FNB Cash Plus.
Madonna makante ke montso sampolele ka mananeo a FNB ya Cash Plus.
La ha re le nna ke gone go utwang ka dona ebile ke ne ke sa dumele.
Deposit cash and coins, withdraw from e-wallet, make cardless cash withdrawals, buy prepaid airtime and electricity, pay bills such as water, electricity, and many more.
FNB.
Dona. Nyawa ene ke ra sa thare mpare motiki. Na ke ra go motho hela mamratedi. Go tola skontere hela. O bua go semosong wa go duela semoso. Manane wa FNB Cash Plus.
FNB, how can we help you?
Welcome back to First Issues. In the modern corporate landscape, the office is not just a place where work happens. It is a tool for competitive advantage. As businesses across the country and indeed around the world strive for efficiency, the conversation has shifted from square footage to strategic design. For a business to thrive, its physical environment must do more than just house desks. It must ignite zeal and sustain morale. Research indicates that employees who are satisfied with their physical work environment are up to 16% more productive and 18% more likely to stay with their current employer. Furthermore, a study by the International Facility Management Association found that 68% of employees believe their work environment directly impacts their daily productivity. At the forefront of this transformation in Botswana is Fuzed Creative Studio, a Gaborone-based firm that specializes in interior architecture and space planning. By focusing on the human-centric aspect of design, they help companies create spaces that facilitate collaboration while respecting the need for individual focus, engineering that reduces burnout and enhances the professional zeal of the workforce. The creative force behind Fuzed Creative Studio is its founder, Alessandra Sbrana, a professional dedicated to the power of design to shape experiences and enrich lives. We have a conversation with Alessandra about how you as an entrepreneur can better your space to improve your staff's morale. Alessandra, thank you so much for coming on First Issues and affording us your time. Today we're talking about interior design, but in the context of productivity within the workplace, right? But before we go any further, maybe you should just understand something here. Since founding your company in 2019, what is the most common mistake that you see companies making with their office layouts?
I think that not a lot of consideration is put into recreational spaces. So in as much as productivity is why we go to work, to produce something, to be focused, to put out work that's excellent, I think sometimes small things like a little lounge, a little kitchen space where employees can go and just enjoy a coffee, like just take a break and have a conversation. I've noticed that a lot of our offices in Botswana, either they don't have them or that those spaces are neglected.
So we're talking about productivity and interior design and how they correlate, right? And studies have actually shown that employees are more likely to be 16% more productive in a stimulating work environment in terms of the interior design, right? So as a professional in this space, how do you convince a cost-conscious CEO that spending in interior design is more a strategic asset than it is an aesthetic luxury?
Interior design is not just about aesthetics. A huge part of it is function. So I like to call myself an interior architect because the way that I work is I actually plan the space with the client to make sure that it functions according to the requirements or according to how the space is used. So I think that once that's considered, once we consider the function of the space, then we can find ways to inform the design so that it affects people's behavior. There's small things that offices can possess that will increase someone's productivity. Even the colors of a wall or breaking, monotonous walls with wallpaper or texture. It actually stimulates your senses.
There's been a rise in open plan spaces, right, including in the commercial corporate spaces. But it leads to the argument of there's not much privacy there. So much so that 68% of employees who work in open plan spaces feel like they don't have a personal space to work in. But also, the argument could be made because we're looking at being or trying to be collaborative. So as an interior designer or an interior architect, how do you strike that balance of collaboration, but also making sure that people feel like they do have a space of their own within a workspace?
Yeah, it's something that I've noticed as well, personally working in open plan areas, is that sometimes there's conversations going on that can be distracting. So I think it's important to have flexible spaces within an office. So you don't necessarily have to have massive boardrooms that hold like 20 people. Rather consider how you use a space as a business owner, and that should inform the different separations of space. And then each client can determine how they use that space.
Investing in a workspace designed by professionals like Alessandra Sbrana and the team at Fuzed Creative Studio should not be seen as an expense. It rather should be seen as a strategic investment in a company's most valuable asset, its people. And on that note, we've come to the end of tonight's installment of First Issues. Until next time, good night.
This program was proudly brought to you by First National Bank of Botswana.